So today we're going to try and do a little bit of repairing of this wall. Just going to put a thin render on, thin scratch coat and just a thin top coat to just render this and make this wall look a bit nicer. A little bit later on I might do a little relief gecko or something, but to start off with it's just going to be a bit of a clean up job and get away all the loose sort of paint. I did power wash this yesterday to try and get rid of any debris. So of course if you've got some rough areas and you want to get them off, you can use a wire brush, it's quite good. Just forget making sure that it's absolutely got rid of all those loose bits of paint. And what I've done is I've got some Pva glue, and you can use stronger compounds which mix with water, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a coating. It's quite a dry day, so I'm just going to make sure that one, it's giving it a bit of glue to go onto, and it'll just damp it down a bit, so when we render it's going to be a little bit better. So I'm just going to give it just a quick sort of paint with that. Just mix that up a little bit and just paint that on. You don't have to, you can actually just scratch coat straight on if you want to. Really work it in. So in terms of the tools, we've got the hawk we're going to put the rendering material onto. We've got a steel float which we're going to be using to apply the mixture. A few other tools, we might go for a sort of a finish with the plastic float, going round and round with the plastic float, so that might be used. Occasionally you might want to get into a difficult corner, so you might have to use a little pointing trowel, which can be quite a good thing to have. And again, a sponge is sometimes useful into tight areas if you want to put a spongy kind of finish on it. The other tools which are really important are, we've got a bucket of water to, well, a big plasterer's tub of water just ready to clean tools, so it's important to keep the tools really clean when you're using them. So for the mix, what I'm going to do is batch mix it. So we could use 3 rendering sand, 1 cement, which is a good mix, or we could use a 6 to 1 to 1, which is like, I use say 3 washed, you can use 6 washed to 1 lime to 1 cement. I'm actually going to do 3 wash sand to 3 building sand to 1 lime and 1 cement. I'm actually going to have those ratios, but that is the ratio I'm going to use. So I've got I'm batch mixing it, so that means using the bucket, so I get an even kind of mix. So that's 1 of wash sand. Take out any debris, you don't want any stones. You could sieve it if you wanted to get rid of the really big gritty bits, but I'm going to kind of leave them for what I'm doing, because it's kind of quite a stucco-y kind of render. So we'll do that one. We'll do some of this building sand. That's my one building sand, and I now need another. I'm going to do a half and half building sand to wash sand for my last one. So that's my 3 of the sand, and then I'm going to put half lime, half cement to finish that one off. Obviously, because I'm handling lime and cement, I'm using my gloves. You might want to put a dust mask on also, obviously, with the lime and that in the air, and then we're going to add those in, mix it all up dry, add some water and mix it up till we get to a nice even mix, a nice uniform colour. So this is my mixture of cement and lime. Just going to spread that out a little bit, just really throwing it up to the left side first, and then we'll switch it round. So what you can do to scoop it up out of the barrow, you can just draw it up onto your hawk. Now you might want to just get a little bit of water on your hawk and just wet that down a little bit. A little, just got a little squidgy there, just a little squirt of bottle. We'll just wet it down a little bit. Quite useful to have around. Wet that down. And then what we're going to do is draw it up onto the hawk. Like that. And then you've got your mix. You can begin to kind of work the mix so it's in a nice, work the mix so it's in a nice sort of lump like that. Get all together and get used to using it. Use the float right down flat, pick it up, turn the hulk over, drop it down, and then you get a nice, it pulls it all together. Okay, so you've got a nice sort of load there on your hawk. I'm just going to put a scratch coat on this, just a thin coat, and then that evens out the suction, and so when you put the next coat on it's got an even base. So again, I'm just going to draw from the bottom to begin with. So what I'm going to do, put the float straight flat against your hawk to begin with if you're just starting out, and just sort of separate the two like that. And then when you put it on the wall, when you're starting out, just put it like that, flat 90 degrees, and then bring it up. Okay, this has got a lot of grit in it, so you will lose some. You could put obviously a material at the base, some plastic to recycle it, which is a good idea. So just a little cut, put it flat, put it in like that, and flat against the wall, just sort of 90 degrees to the wall. That. So now keep working this, and as you get more confident you could draw it from the top like that, where you push in and draw from the top, but to begin with I'll draw it from the base. So this is heavy grit, so we're going to have a lot of bits in it. There we go. Gritty bit, that one, but okay. So again, a little bit there. If you're going from the right hand side, use the right hand side of your float, so you can work from right to left like that. Okay, so you can just cut in and you can add that in from right to left. If you're going from the left hand side, use the left hand. Use the left hand part of your trowel and come left to right. Okay, it's just getting used to, if you're going from the top, use the top. If you're coming from the bottom, use the bottom. And that way you can get all the different parts that you want to get into, all the crevices and that. Don't go more than 10mm on your first coat. The tighter you can keep it, the better really. What we're going to look at here is the plumb and dot method of getting the panel. I'm just doing a panel, but how could we get that panel nice and level? Well, what we can do, we can put a little bit of mortar up the top here. This is the plumb and dot method. We'll look at all three, well, two methods. We'll look at two methods. I'm going to put a bit of mortar in there, and then what I'm going to do is stick a lat in there like that and kind of box it in a bit. Alright, so I'm going to box that one in there, and that'll be that. I'm not going to box it in too much so I can get it out later. So I'll put one there, and just a little bit of, just to get that in place. So that's going to be my final level. I don't want it to be out too far, so I'm going to knock that in quite a bit, like that. So that's going to be my first dot. Okay, and then the second dot. put that one down there. And then what we're going to do, we're going to get the spirit level to check that they're actually plumb. Okay, and this one at the bottom has got to go in a bit to get that plumb. This wall actually is leaning a little bit, so I'm going to give it a little bit, but that would make that plumb. And you do that with that side, and you do the same thing over the other side, so you're going to actually come through like that, or string a line and plumb up that one, and then we fill a bead in here and we kind of screed off it to get a vertical line and a vertical line here, and then you can screed between the two lines. So let's just have a quick look at that. So again, just popping a bit on there, just pop that dot in there. Okay, and then the same again, a little bit down here. So there's my 4 dots. We'll just have a look whether the dots are going to join up. So now I've got that one in there, and that again is similar. It's got a bubble touch, so it's similar to that. And then I want to make sure that they're level in this way when I screed through. Same again with that one. So I've got my 4 dots, so that's plumb and dot, and then all I've got to do is just strip up that side, use that to screed off, and then I'll give myself 2 nice vertical lines to work the middle through. Okay, put a little layer on. Normally let it go off a bit more than what I have, but we're going to just use these dots now to just level that up a bit. Okay, and where you need a bit more, like in there, I can pop a bit more in. So here's my 2 strips. So I'm just using the plastic float just to level them up a little bit, but you can see I've got a strip there and a strip there, and all I've got to do now is to fill the middle, and once these 2 have gone off a bit, we can use them to screed off back and forth. So you've got this method where you're really balancing on the 2 sides on that one, and you screed up, and you can see that there's quite a lot in the middle, and you work your way up and you level up that way. So if we weren't using the plumb and dot method, we could use just a broad screed where you put a lot on and you screed off it back and forth, taking the surplus off, and then you can see the high and low. This is dished in, this is feathered in each side, so there's a big belly on it, but you can just put that in and work it up, and you'll see immediately where the highs and lows are. So this top part is caught the side bit, so we're going to just swirl around, just swirling around, packing it in, making sure that we've got all that nice and packed on the edges where I've faded it in to blend in a little bit. I'll add a bit of water and we'll brush that in a minute just to finish that off. And what you can do is, obviously you could put a butter coat, slightly about a 10mm coating, and throw chippings at it. You could mix some chippings with some 3-to-1 building sand, cement, mix it all up, and you can throw that. That's a rough cast. We're going to just have a little go at a bit of relief work for a bit of fun, and we're going to have a look at possibly doing a gecko, just to have a look at how we do some relief work. The bottom is still, that's got to go off a little bit more yet, but we'll just have a look at this top area just to show a bit of that. I've just got a gecko. It's not a great gecko, but I'm going to put him on the side there, and I'm just going to sort of draw around a little bit, make it possibly a little bit bigger than what I've kind of done, and just to give me a bit of an idea of this gecko, a bit of an idea of the shape of the gecko. Now it's got pretty chubby legs, my gecko, so I was going to have to thin that gecko down a bit when we come to do it. His tail's a bit big, and so he's pretty chubby. So I think we'll just better pull the gecko down a little bit. But what we're going to do is just crisscross this a little bit, give it a bit of a key. And what we're going to do is just add another layer. So again, just with my mortar, a little bit on there, and we'll just build it up. Now, what we can do here, we don't have to, we can just put it reasonably well, and then tile it later with some nice coloured tiles would be good. But it will give it a bit of 3D. So I'm just going to push that in. Get this just gone, the board's gone a little bit dry. So we'll just do that. Build up the body a bit. Get the head. Just to give it a bit of three-dimensional. Build up the tail. Okay. So we're just going to build it up a little bit. Build up the legs a little bit. Might need to switch to using like a knife is better. Don't worry if you don't get it right. As you can see, I'm not getting it right. But we'll just build it up a little bit. And then we'll do a bit of carving. There a bit. Shape his body a little bit. And if you want to go up a bit more, you just crisscross it again, and you can do another layer. I'm just going to start to blend this in at the end just a bit with the sponge. The sponge can be a useful tool just to blend it in where you're marrying into a wall, feathering it in. Okay, I'll blend that in. I'm going to have to leave the gecko to go off a bit before carving the last bit. So here's the gecko, and just drying out a little bit, just one or two little tiny cracks to deal with, but on the whole the gecko's drying out quite nicely.